Welcome back, champions. I hope you're all fantastic. It's time for another installment of Friday Q&A. As always, if you have questions you would like me to answer next week, put them in the comments section below. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the video description to the music I make and to my Patreon, as well as a link to the Discord server if you want to come and hang out and just talk about guitars and guitar gear and post up really cute photos of your cats. Please do that. Come and join us all over there. It's a whole bunch of fun. Let's get straight into this week's questions. And the first one relates to last week's video. There's kind of two questions. What was that guitar I was playing? It's the guitar that's kind of right about here. My Hamer Standard. It is essentially a 58 Explorer clone. I bought that brand new in 2009 from Jackson's Rare Guitars in Sydney. I was over there doing a summer project for university, and I was getting paid a little bit of money because I was doing some research, and I spent all of that money on that guitar, which relates to the second question. Shout out to Joey, who collects Explorers. I can't sell you that Explorer, or really it's a Hamer Standard, isn't it? But it's a lightning bolt shape. For those reasons, it's kind of a precious guitar to me, and I've been playing it a lot more recently. And Ragdoll has a show on Saturday night, and I'm probably going to play it there. So if you're in Perth and you want to come out and beat the lockdown blues, come out and check us out at Amplifier Bar, and I'll bring my lightning bolt shaped guitar. Okay, favorite Scorpions album? This is a good question. Two immediately spring to mind. Love at First Sting, because that's got so many anthems on it. It's probably got the best Scorpions ballad on there in Still Lovin' You. And Crazy World, funnily enough. That was my first Scorpions album, and the first song on there is still one of my favorite rock riffs of all time, Tease Me, Please Me. Nevertheless, I think anything Matthias played on is probably going to be up there with my favorite albums. He is such an underrated guitar player. He's a guitar god, an absolute rock star. We should be talking about him every bit as much as any other player from the 80s. All his solos are super memorable. He's got the chops, he's got the tasty stuff, he's got the pocket. Amazing guitar player. But yeah, Scorpions, Crazy World, fantastic album, fantastic sounding album as well. I think, when did it come out? Like 1990 or 91? So it's almost like they learned all the lessons of the 80s and then they just made one of the best sounding rock albums from that entire era. Very good stuff. Next question, will I do some more Axe FX deep dives with Cygnus? Well, there's actually a new beta firmware out at the moment, so I've been planning to do a deep dive video. There will be one up over the weekend. As always, if you've got suggestions for what you would like me to cover, please let me know. But I think I'm kind of going to focus more on the high gain stuff because I've spent a little bit of time playing around with the Plexis, the Bogners, the Diesels, the Boogie Marks, as I always do, which you're hearing at the moment. So yeah, I'll try to put the focus on there, and maybe we'll dive in and do some advanced amp parameter tweaking. I don't think you have to do that stuff. I always say this, I don't think you have to do it, but it's pretty awesome. It's pretty fun. So yeah, look out for that one over the weekend. Boss GT1000 Core versus FM3. You could expand this question and make it modeler A versus modeler B for anything. I have tried a lot of stuff. I haven't tried the Quad Cortex yet. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with like the big Helix, but I've done some stuff with the HX Stomp. I've done some stuff with the GT1000. I think the GT1000 is really good. I think it's actually probably a little bit of an underrated unit. You can run so much stuff at the same time. You've got most of the effects from the 500 series in there, and the amp modeling is decent. Like a lot of Boss or Roland stuff though, I think the UA, not the Universal Audio, the UI, the user interface, is maybe like 15 years behind a bunch of the other stuff, and I find the desktop editor pretty clunky. Having said that, if I was going to get a Boss GT, I would get a core, and hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on one soon and actually demo it. But I think if you want something where you're going to have the absolute best in show amp modeling and effects modeling, and you don't mind doing like the smallest amount of work to actually learn how stuff works on there, get an FM3. It is one of my favorite pieces of gear ever. I have basically played it live exclusively for the past year. I know the past year around a lot of the world hasn't featured any live music, but in Perth, we've been really lucky where we've been able to do that. So it's an amazing unit. I would go all in on that particular one. But having said that, it's the best unit for me. If you get a chance, you got to try both of them out with your hands, your rig, your ears, your tones. It's like such a cliche, but you know, I think that's it's a cliche because these questions do get asked a lot, and I mean, that's to me the fairest answer I can give in that kind of setting. So yeah, speaking of delicious tones, one of you posted a link to the John Petrucci JP2C Plus video where he's got that dual delay thing going on. What I'm hearing there is the dual delay on the AmpX 3 with some cross feedback. So if you've got a dual delay unit, the Eclipse should be able to do this. I'm fairly certain the Lexicon PCM or even the MPX1 can probably do the cross feedback thing, where it just sounds like your kind of typical quarter note on one side, dotted eighth note on another side, but they are kind of feeding into one another and circling around. So if you've got an AmpX, I think those settings have actually been posted up, so you could probably look that up on the forum and then try replicate it in your unit of choice. Scorpion's riffs. This is kind of on my mind now. Big City Nights. I remember downloading this from LimeWire or Kazaa back when it took 2 days to download an MP3. Wicked song. You should definitely go and check out Love at First Sting. As I said earlier, assuming that song's actually on there, my memory might just be absolutely terrible. The Blue Guitar AmpX is definitely something I want to check out, mostly because I really like Thomas Blug. Kind of everything he's done is pretty awesome. He's a great guitar player as well. I know he was involved with Hughes and Kettner with a bunch of their things, and you know, just kind of seems like he designs good stuff. There's some claims on their website like dynamic IRs. You know, if you know what an impulse response is, you know by definition it is not dynamic. So yeah, kind of interested to actually check it out firsthand and see what it does and see if it kind of lives up to some of the promises. But I've seen a few channels that I really, really like demo it and make it sound pretty decent. So because I've checked out so many digital solutions, and I know a lot of people really kind of like the idea of something that's still, you know, living in the analog domain, I feel like it's something I should probably cover on the channel at some point. When I'm going to do that, I don't know, but I definitely want to try it out. It looks kind of cool as well. So that one is on the long list of gear to check out on the channel. A few questions related to the band. The first one is with songwriting and how we approach doing stuff. Basically, our kind of rough template is that I sit here in my little cave and, you know, I'm noodling around and I might come up with an idea, and because I'm always plugged in to my entire recording setup, I can then quickly chuck together a little demo. I'll sit here and program some drums and either program some bass or play some bass and just kind of like flesh out an arrangement. I find that's a really good way to present ideas, not just like, oh, here's a 10-second riff. It'll be 10-second riff and I'll just go like, okay, cool. I'll just quickly put down an idea for something that might be a verse and something that might be a chorus and just try to knock together like, you know, a 2.5, 3 minute rough demo. And normally I would just kind of send that out via email, or, you know, we have a WhatsApp group where we're always talking to one another and just kind of say like, hey, here's some stuff. If anybody actually reacts to it, that probably means that it's decent. And then get together in a room, play it a bunch of times, pick it apart, put it back together again. And essentially in that kind of environment, what we're doing is we take that original idea and we rearrange it, and then on the fly we will add more parts to it. And once we've got a working arrangement of it and we're in the studio, there's also another chance that it will kind of change there. Normally we kind of have the structure, and then I gotta say it every time, friend of the channel, Troy Naberbaum, our producer and engineer, he normally has some great ideas with kind of arrangements or different chord changes to do or melodic stuff. So it's a very collaborative process, even though I just kind of sit here and say, like, here's the germ of an idea. We're going to be really driven to do it. Let's go and do it if everybody's kind of on board with it. So yeah, I think I've got hundreds of little riff ideas sitting around on my computer now. It's just a case of some of them are okay. You know, not every riff is going to be the greatest riff you write in your life. Not every song is going to be the best song that you write in your life. You just got to keep churning those things out. So that's kind of my attitude there. And then for lyrics, a lot of the time, the lyrics and the melodies will kind of come together at the same time. And I guess in the past, I've either sort of gone to Ryan, hey, here's a really rough idea of what I think some lyrics might be, or a topic, or we'll kind of discuss a theme, basically what we want to go for. And then I'll throw some ideas around. He'll throw some ideas around. Normally, if he's got an idea that he's come up with that he's really happy with, I always kind of defer to that, because he's actually got to sing the darn thing. And then again, yeah, we'll kind of workshop it in the studio while he's tracking vocals as well and really refine stuff. So yeah, that's kind of our process. I've got a few kind of studio diaries up on the channel of me kind of tracking guitars with Troy from a couple of years ago that you might want to go and check out and kind of watch our process of doing stuff. I think a lot of people would find that really interesting as well. And I've put some stuff up on my Patreon as well of just how I approach tackling and recording demos as well. Excellent question. Working on timing. This is something that kind of comes up a lot, and I hear this in a lot of the private teaching that I'm doing, where people will tell me, oh, my timing's really bad. And then they play and their timing's fine. So first, what you got to identify is it actually your timing, or is it something else related to, I don't know, you don't know your parts as well as you thought you did, or there's kind of little, I call them seams, where you go from one part to another part and that seam's not very tight and you haven't practiced that transition much. So that can throw your timing off. And then understanding accents, I think, is the big thing. When I started playing in a band, I remember, what were we doing? I think we were just playing a cover song or something like that, but you know, it had a push or an anticipation in it where the guitar riff starts on beat 4 and not on beat 1. I was trying to play it on beat 1 and it didn't have the right feel, and the drums and the bass were accenting it in the correct place, and it sounded like the whole band wasn't very tight. So one thing I would do is practice something as rudimentary as this. If you take an A chord and you practice going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's practicing that anticipation. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 kind of like the example I gave last week with the 16th note kind of funky stuff as well. You can then expand that to trying to accent different 16th notes. So rather than it be just this nebulous thing of timing, you want to be able to feel subdivisions, whether they're quarters, eighths, 16ths, deeper subdivisions, whether it's a kind of swing thing, whether it's got like a shuffle feel or something like that. Knowing where those important accents are on those subdivisions will just it'll take the mystery out of all of it. And if you start there with that one chord and then you get some good example songs to learn, I think you'll be able to sort out your perceived issues with timing pretty quickly. But again, it's kind of a vague thing. I would almost recommend just, find someone who you can have some guitar lessons with, or go and have some lessons with a drum teacher and then explain to them what your issues are and see if they can maybe give you some advice, because we're all kind of speaking the same language of music here. You don't just have to go to someone who plays the same instrument. So Yeah, that's my advice there. This one's from Danthrax. Have I checked out the band Vicious Rumours? I've been aware of Vicious Rumours for a really, really long time. I think because I was into Vinnie Moore, and I remember he played on like their very first album, but that didn't have like the classic lineup with the guitarist and the singer. And the song Danthrax recommended checking out, Children, is awesome. And I really like the singer, and it's kind of given me a cross between Sabotage and Fate's Warning and Queensryche, and I love all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go and check out the rest of their back catalogue. Thank you for that excellent selection. Singer kind of has a bit of that Zach Stevens thing, but kind of crossed with Robert Plant. I don't know. I really, really like it. Really, really like it. This one's an FM3 question. Can you set up the 3 foot switches so that when you tap, say, the first foot switch, it toggles 2 scenes, but then when you hold it down, it gets you another function like a tuner? Yes, you can do that. And yes, you can do that on all 3 switches, which is pretty awesome. And then you have layouts, so you have like virtual switches as well. So yeah, again, the 3 physical foot switches doesn't look like much, but the actual functionality is pretty awesome and pretty amazing. And I think that's the end of all the questions. Actually, I lie, there is one left right here. Tips for getting, not losing all your sustain with a low action. Probably comes down to truss rod adjustment. Now this is where like having a proper setup really comes in handy. I found that all the guitars I've had plecked, one kind of thing is that I didn't have the truss rod either tight or loose enough. Like I didn't have the right amount of neck relief, which is why I was getting buzz in various places when I was trying to go down on the action. So most of the guitars that I've had plecked now are the action super low. You get heaps of sustain and you don't have any fret buzz anywhere, which is kind of the dream, isn't it? All of those factors that we love. I mean, you're not going to get like, a millimeter action everywhere on every guitar, but I think you can definitely kind of fine tune those things. So maybe something to look up would be some extra stuff about truss rod and neck relief. It sounds really, really scary, but it's actually not too scary if you do it right and you're really careful with what you're doing. So yeah, the one tool that I always have in my guitar bag is a little truss rod adjuster for my guitars. I've been in some situations where, you go from, I don't know, it'll be the middle of winter in Perth and it's like, 15 degrees Celsius during the day, and then you fly up somewhere north and it's 30 degrees Celsius during the day and super dry and like 0 humidity. So yeah, having the truss rod adjuster there to just give it some quick little tweaks on the fly and adjust your relief, I think is really good. Alrighty. Thanks so much for all the questions this week. If you got any more questions, put them in the comments below. I'll play you all out on something, and my computer monitor is turned off, which basically means I've probably talked for too long. Thanks so much for watching the video. Have a great weekend.